So, you are a European nation in the 18th century, the world around you is changing rapidly. But you are in your prime and have just made an incredible discovery. A new ancient civilization in Africa. This civilization appears to be greater than any other known civilization, and you are eager to control and exploit this new discovery. However, there is a significant problem with this civilization. It was built by black Africans and dark-skinned people. You find yourself in the midst of one of the most tragic events in world history. The transatlantic slave trade and the beginning of colonization. For centuries, you have been practicing slavery and for some of you, have even reinstituted after it was banned. You have used all types of techniques to justify the belief that black people and people of color in general are inferior to your race, the white Caucasian race. Incapable of any bright thought, they are no better than animals and deserve to be exploited. You want to spread the word about your new discovery, but the real problem is that if the general public sees this truth, it will create feelings of guilt. People love to feel like they are good people, and this lie may end up debunking all of your feel-good theories and propagandas created to justify the treatment of black people in the world. And even worse, it can plant seeds of revolution and freedom in the minds of these black people who have been brainwashed for centuries and convinced that they were inferior and deserved to be slaves. In other words, this discovery will end up ruining all of your plans and prevent you from exploiting black people and accumulating wealth by exploiting their resources. It will cause the end of your prime. It's not in your interests that such a thing happens, so what do? You need a solution, something that will allow you to exploit this new discovery and all of your looted artifacts without fearing for your interests. Something that will change the public's perception of the civilization, something that will allow them to enjoy this new discovery without anyone noticing the link with Black Africa. You decide to completely steal that civilization. So, here is how to steal a civilization like a boss. The first step is to create a whole new science about that civilization. A discipline that enables you to dictate the perceptions related to that particular civilization. And that's how the study of ancient Egypt, known as Egyptology, began. So, basically, you create religious and scientific doctrines to ease the white conscience for oppressing and enslaving African people. With Egyptology, you hit the jackpot. It all started with Napoleon Bonaparte's invasion of Egypt in 1798. The scholars who accompanied him published a book called Discrediting Egypt, which made a wealth of information about ancient Egypt available to Europeans for the first time. However, it is important to note that this study was conducted by European scholars for a European audience. The knowledge of this ancient civilization had been lost, and it was the Europeans who rediscovered it. But, as we all know, history is written by the victors. And in this case, you are the victor, and you have an agenda. You want to maintain the illusion of European racial superiority. This allows you to control the narrative of ancient Egypt, determining who and what deserves attention and what is considered true or not.
Many of the early archaeologists came to the study of ancient Egypt and ancient Nubia from the perspective of Semitic languages or the study of the Hebrew Bible, and it was very important to them to bring Egypt specifically into the sphere of biblical studies. And so they had to carve Egypt away from Africa to bring it into that sphere. And the way that they did that was they used race. So these early archaeologists effectively made ancient Egypt white in the sense that they made it part of a dominant Western culture, and ancient Nubia was separated from that. It was black.
However, it is important to note that dissenting voices may still exist and disagree with your narrative, which is why it is necessary to apply the second rule. To flood the world with hastily thrown together African histories that contain only a European perspective, by controlling the game, you control what can exist, but that civilization is not totally a new discovery. As said earlier, the knowledge of this ancient civilization had been lost, and you rediscovered it. So, many people have been talking and writing about it in the past and described it as it really was. A black civilization. So you need to fix that issue by flooding the world with your new racist and biased point of view and make sure that it is the one available easily and everywhere. Since most people never dig deeper, they will not question it and move on with this lie you just crafted. But this is not like hiding an object, it is a whole civilization that spanned for millennia in numerous countries. This means that you can't control everything, everywhere, all the time. You need to find a way to minimize the risks that can occur, so you decide to use the rule number 4, which is to rename people and places. replacing African names with Arabic and European names to disguise their true black identity. By doing so, you make sure that people never see the connection. For instance, a ruler whose name is Khufu, which is a clear African sound, could be changed to Cheops, a name without any meaning that does not evoke associations with Africa, like Khufu does. Similarly, a pharaoh like Mentuhotep III, whose name does not have any significance within the African context, could have his true family name, Sankara, which is a typical African name, obscured from the public. We will delve into this topic in more depth in a future video, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed. But you know that there will be glitches in your system. You can't just convince people that brown or black paint on these ancient pieces of art is not black. They have eyes, so you need a trick to deal with. And that's why you need the rule number 5, which is to change the criteria for defining race. For example, in America, 1 drop of African blood makes you a black person, no matter how light your skin. But when reporting ancient history, you reverse the standard and make 1 drop of white blood render someone a Caucasian, no matter how dark his skin. This one is a pretty good one. It will allow you to make a lot of damages by claiming all ancient civilizations as your white ancestors' accomplishments, no matter the continent nor the phenotype. But there still are some issues. There are some great traces of civilizations in areas that seem to only have been occupied by black people inside Africa. You have to deal with that too, because you must completely annihilate any idea of black people being able to build civilizations. So, you invent the rule number 6. When black participation in civilization is so obvious that the previous rules can't hide it, find a way to attribute the success to outside white influence. As a result, civilizations such as Kush and Great Zimbabwe are often attributed to white Egyptians and other Middle Eastern groups. People who came to build inside Africa and then left, rather than their indigenous African origins. And before discovering the last rule, I want to remind you that due to all these lies, it is very important to educate the next generation. That's the only way to break this toxic cycle. That's why I have created a series of children's books that will inspire and educate your little ones. With this collection of children's books about African historical figures, they will discover the incredible stories of some of the most influential African leaders and trailblazers, like Goddess Isis and the architect Imhotep. These books are filled with engaging illustrations and easy to understand text, making them perfect for young readers. Not only will your children learn about these important figures and their impact on history, but they will also gain a greater understanding and appreciation for the rich and diverse culture of Africa. Order now on mrimhotep.org/books. By getting them you also support the channel and allow me to improve the quality of my content, and you contribute to the making of my documentary about African history. Now let's go back to the video. And finally, when the voices of ancient historians who actually encountered these civilizations and wrote about them begin to contradict your theory, use the 7th rule, which is to discredit them. Claim that they were not always accurate, regardless of their prestige, and that they specifically lied about Africa, but their positive observations about Europe must always be considered true. And this, my friends, is how you steal a civilization like a boss. If you follow these rules you will have 99% chances of success. Now, some people may say that this is all just a hypothesis, that secret meetings of Egyptologists and other ideologists or politicians couldn't have happened to make something like this. But let's not forget the Berlin Conference, where European nations decided the fate of an entire continent without them knowing or even consenting. New countries were created, new racial theories were forced upon innocent people, and lives were destroyed. So, it's not hard to believe that the same thing could have happened in the world of Egyptology. Have you ever encountered any of these rules while talking about ancient history? Let me know in the comments section below. If like me you are someone who has studied African history, you must have encountered at least one of these rules on your way. This list has been established by Chancellor Williams, an African-American scholar who discovered it through his journey. In his book The Destruction of Black Civilization, written in 1971-1974, Chancellor Williams explains how Africa went from being the world's leader to its current situation. He shares facts that are usually hidden. I highly recommend you to read his book. It is sad to see that today in the 2020s we are still experiencing it. It's frustrating to say the least when people hide behind these mind walls and refuse to believe the facts. But that's why we're here, to shed light on the truth and give a voice to the marginalized. Thanks for watching Mr. Imhotep channel, and don't forget to share the message and hit the like and subscribe buttons for more content like this. See you in the next video guys.